everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining our webinar. And I think we're going to get started. So welcome to our New Mexico webinar, Engaging Students K-12 in Career-Connected Project-Based Learning with our wonderful partners at Cuba Independent Schools. I'm going to start today by sharing and introducing our presenters. So we're going to begin with John Larmer, who is our Senior Vice President, or I'm sorry, our Senior Project-Based Learning Advisor at Defined. We will then talk with Ms. Ana Lucero, who is the Dean of Students for Cuba Independent Schools. She's going to give us a little insight into their project-based learning program and what they've been doing. And then we are so excited to be able to highlight and share some of these amazing educators who have been using project-based learning in their classrooms. So we have everyone from third grade all the way to an internship coordinator. So we'll start with Ms. Robin Herrera, who's a third grade teacher, followed by our middle school experts, Ms. Andrea Irangan and Ms. Grace Graves. Mr. Daniel Delgado will take us into high school science. And finally, Ms. Delandra Bitsui will talk to us a little bit more about their internship program. And so with that, I'm going to, very excited to introduce you to John Larmer. And John is an education consultant and writer. And prior to coming on as the senior PBL advisor at Defined, John was the editor-in-chief at PBL Works. He was the key builder of the Buck Institute for Education, which is now PBL Works. And while he was there, he served as their editor-in-chief, their director of publications, and their director of product development. And if that wasn't enough, he also co-developed the model for gold standard project-based learning. So I'm very happy to have him here and to kick off our webinar today. And so with that, John, I will let you start sharing your screen.
All right. Thanks, Katie. Hello, everyone. Nice to be with you this morning. I also like to add that I started my career in education as a high school teacher. I taught social studies and English at the high school level here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So, and I've been writing some high school and middle school curriculum materials actually for social studies for Defined recently. So I'm really enjoying that. All right, let me share my slides and okay, I just want to talk to you briefly about sort of how I see defined learning fitting in the PBL universe, because as Katie mentioned, I have a long experience with the Buck Institute and PBL Works, where we mostly did workshops for teachers on how to design your own projects. And I learned some lessons from that. And now I think Defined has a good solution for one of the issues that came up. So I just want to start by saying, you guys know this, you're pretty familiar with project-based learning, that all the benefits from project-based learning in terms of engagement and learning and building those future-ready skills and promoting social emotional learning. If you've had experience with PBL, you know how it can do all that. But the challenge is asking teachers, let me just do my slideshow, sorry. Asking teachers to design their own projects, though, it can be challenging. It raises some issues. And you might have experienced this in your work. I mean, they come back from a PBL Works workshop or some other workshop, they've read a book, articles, what have you, and they get all fired up about project-based learning. It sounds exciting, but then they get back to the classroom and maybe it doesn't take as much as it should have. They might do one project and then that's it, or maybe the projects aren't great quality. They sort of say, well, I guess that's not for me, it didn't work too well, and they drop the whole idea. So there's issues around this. Teachers don't have the time sometimes to plan good projects, especially at the beginning. It takes a lot of time to sort of rethink the way you do a curriculum unit. And they may not have collaboration time with each other either, which really helps for planning. They might just find it challenging to come up with an idea for a good project and make it authentic and engaging for their students. It might not be rigorous enough. It might be kind of a fun activity, that sort of the stereotypical dessert project that's not really a rigorous, in-depth project that's aligned to their standards. And in general, though, a lot of teachers might just feel like PBL is too big of a leap. It sounds like a revolution in their teaching, which it doesn't have to be. You can get into it slowly. and they just no, it's not for me. I can't do it in my subject with my kids, or it's just not my style. So given those issues, I wrote a blog for Defined last year about using the meal kit analogy. And what Defined offers teachers is a meal kit to get them started on the road to doing project-based learning. Their performance tasks or projects that are kind of pre-built for projects. Like you get it, all the ingredients, the spices, the step-by-step directions on how to assemble a meal from the kit. And that's kind of what Defined offers teachers. And I think it's a great way to get a lot of teachers going on PBL who might have had a hard time starting before. So that's my basic premise, that starting with a pre-designed project helps teachers become more willing to make that leap into PBL. And they learn some skills to be able to do it more effectively. You might have heard of this or seen this for lots of innovations. There's this adoption curve where some teachers, the ones at the far left, the innovators, they might have been doing PBL themselves 20 years ago. The early adopters go to a workshop, they get fired up, they're off and running. But that early majority and late majority, which is most teachers in the world, might need a little help getting over that hump. And that's where the meal kit comes in. And by the way, I don't like that term laggards there at the end. I don't want to call any teacher a laggard, but there could be various reasons for not getting into PBL. So we'll leave that unlabeled. All right, so what Defined provides then in a performance task or a project are these basic elements. There's the GRASP framework, which is developed by Jay McTighe of Understanding by Design for Defined. The goal, role, audience, situation, and products. That's the basic framework for the project. All of Defined's projects begin with a career role that students are in. They have a goal. They've got a particular audience. It's an authentic kind of audience. They're placed in a scenario, a real world situation. And they're given a list of products to either choose from, or teachers and students can figure out which ones they're going to create. Usually it's 2 or 3 products per task. The standards are there listed, the vocabulary list, research questions for students to start digging in, and some resources for them. The rubrics are there attached to each product, which are customizable rubrics. And actually all of Defined stuff is customizable. And some teacher notes to help the teacher facilitate the project. So Defined offers that meal kit to get people started, and it builds these PBL teaching skills, how to coach students, to learn to do research and ask questions, not just simply respond to teachers' questions or be told the answer by the teacher. How to promote deeper learning, not just memorizing. They've got to really learn stuff at a deeper level to create those products and make their presentations in an authentic situation. Using rubrics, that's tricky. A lot of teachers who are new to rubrics just use them at the end for assigning students a grade, but they're really best, as you probably know, for formative assessment, for helping guide students along the way, looking at exemplars, samples of the products, really learning what the criteria are in a rubric. And that's a good teaching skill that PBL really helps build, as well as one of the biggest challenges teachers find, managing group work. So a lot of Defined's tasks can be done either individually, or you can customize it by having students work on a team to do the task. And that's an important thing for teachers and students to learn how to do. So that's about it. That's my sort of intro. And I think you'll see from our folks in New Mexico that this meal kit approach has helped them really get started on the PBL journey. So I'm eager to hear.
Thank you so much, John. We are going to now move over to Ms. Ana Lucero, who is the Dean of Students. And here I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you, Ms. Lucero, and the floor is yours. But just prior to having Ana share, she's really a big reason why Defined. She's the one that found Defined, I believe, for Cuba Independent Schools, and is a big reason why they are now using this program district-wide. So she's going to share a little bit about that experience.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, so now you know a little bit about how Defined was brought to Cuba. I like to do a lot of research, and I've only been dean for a year now, and prior to that I've been a teacher, and so I always try to teach using PBL. Of course, I spent a lot of time trying to plan my lessons, and I was given a book a long time ago. And I just really loved teaching that way. And so then I started doing research more about ways that I could engage students, and I came upon defined learning, which was last year. And let me go in and tell you a little bit about Cuba Independent School District. As you can see, we're primarily Native American. So we have 76% of our student population is Native American. And then we do have 20% Hispanic, 2% white, and 1% Asian, and then 1% Black. And then additional demographic subgroups are, we have free and reduced lunch, 100%, English language learners, 48, special education, 15, and homeless, 18%. So out of 89 public school districts across the state of New Mexico, Cuba has the highest at-risk index measure of 0.411, as ranked by the New Mexico Public Education Department. So we are, let's see, a pretty critical school here. And so little history, during the pandemic, we were on remote learning. Our district began moving towards a project-based approach to delivering lessons, because we thought that that would be the best way to engage students remotely. So engagement and motivation, what we've found is that PBL actively engages students in the learning process. Projects are often designed around real world problems or challenges, making the learning experience more relevant and interesting for students. The increased engagement often leads to higher motivation levels and a deeper commitment to learning. So this takes me back to what Mr. Lamar said. We started off with PBL Works and we really liked it, but we couldn't get our students, our teachers like really motivated to do it. I think because I don't know, I think it just took a little bit more time for them, but defined seemed like a better option, just because everything is there for you as a teacher. So and then if you look at number 2, critical thinking and problem solving, PBL encourages critical thinking and problem solving skills. Students are required to analyze information, formulate questions, research, and develop solutions. And this process helps them develop analytical skills that are valuable in various aspects of life. So I think that when your students see how it's relevant to their lives, then they're going to be a lot more engaged. And, especially like with math, because a lot of times we don't understand why we're learning math the way that we are. And then I think with project-based learning, you start understanding, oh, okay, so this is how this applies to real world situations. And then there's collaboration and communication. So PBL projects often involve collaboration among students. Working in teams help them develop essential communication and collaboration skills, which are vital in the workplace and everyday life. Students learn how to express their ideas, listen to others, and work effectively as a team. So for example, since our students are we have 48% that are ELL. So what this does is helps them to use their language a lot more, right? And so then they're able to collaborate and see how it fits in the real world. So, and then ownership of learning. In PBL, students take ownership of their learning. They have the freedom to explore topics that interest them within the framework of the project. This autonomy fosters a sense of responsibility and independence, leading to a deeper understanding of the subject matter. Okay, incorporation of multiple subjects. So PBL naturally integrates multiple subjects into one project, which is nice. The interdisciplinary approach mirrors real-world scenarios where problems are rarely confined to a single subject area. It helps students see the interconnectedness of knowledge and fosters a holistic understanding of the world. And then assessment of higher order skills. PBL allows for the assessment of higher order thinking skills such as analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Traditional assessments often focus on rote memorization, while PBL assessments focus on how well students can apply their knowledge to solve complex problems. And then 5th, 8th, and 12th grade students complete capstones around the topic of career exploration. The information included, but is not limited to reasons for selecting the occupation in the specific career cluster pathway. So automatically, that's what we're doing with our students, 5th, 8th, and 12th. And then relevant career-related information that provides the reader some information about a specific occupation or current topics related to that occupation. Research on job outlook and education and training needed, and any current trends or changes in the future of the career field. And then all students in grades 6 through 12 participate in the internship program. Students 14 years and older get paid $15 per hour to work in various fields. Our district chose Defined Learning Careers because it combines the project-based learning approach and also introduces students to various careers they may not be familiar with. You know, because we are very rural, our students aren't exposed to very much, you know. So Defined Learning and Careers opens up doors, I think, so that children and students can explore and see what's out there.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lucero. I appreciate you giving us a nice overview of kind of at the district level of the planning that went into using defined learning and defined careers. And now we're excited to have some of our amazing educators share their experiences of project-based learning in the classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to, I believe our first presenter will be, she here? Oh yes, Ms. Herrera. Ms. Herrera, you can go ahead and share your screen if you'd like.
Okay, let me get it going here.
Wonderful.
Okay, are you able to see it there? Okay, well, let me start off by saying yate, hello, hola. Let me give you a little bit of background information about my class's demographics. So I have 85% Native American, 10% Hispanic, and 5% other. So our first project based activity we did for the first 4 weeks of this quarter was actually, let me go to the next slide here. Our objective was cultural characteristics and the migration to different regions. So I kicked off this project-based learning by introducing myself in Navajo, so which I'll do now. You know, I told them, you know, Yate, She, Robin Southern Yinshke, 1200 and then Shlen, Touchini Ada Shache. And by doing that, I was making a personal connection with my students, my Native American students, and my non-Native American students, because I would tell them, and I'm half Hispanic also, and my family migrated, you know, from Ellis Island to New Mexico. So I would give them a personal connection with me. And then as a connection to self, a real world activity, what we did is I explained to them about how my great-great-grandmother experienced the long walk, which is culturally relevant to the students in this area. A lot of their grandparents experience the long walk. And we talked about the clan systems, and my clans, you know, I said they were Tohana and Tutchitni, which is near the water, and Redwater Street people. So by doing that, it migrates back to the long walk, because during the migration, when the students started, when the grandparents started to move out, they had to keep track of lineage of where their family was moving. So that's how the clan system started. So then I asked students to make that connection to their real world experience. I asked them, there was a questionnaire, I modified it, that I found undefined, and I sent it home with no pressure. I told them, go home and ask your adult these questions and come back and share it with the class. So they did, and they really enjoyed it. And then we took it a step further, connection to local. We discussed New Mexico traditions and what unites us as New Mexicans. And then connection to the world. We discussed varying ice land bridges and the various vocabulary that goes along with that. For our project, we went over the rubric, and then we made poster boards with timelines showing important events in New Mexico, and students added their family important events in the timeline also. So they were incorporating themselves into New Mexico history. After that, for a unit wrap up, let me go to the next slide here. What better way to unite people but by food? Let me go here. Oh, is it gonna? Here we go. So with our math, to incorporate our math, we did estimation, and we made the flour for the fry bread. Fry bread is a staple here in New Mexico. Most family gatherings, Native American, Hispanic, as New Mexicans, we enjoy sosapillas and fry bread. So to intertwine us all together and to close our unit, we made fry bread. And then that led us into our next unit, because fried bread was originally made during the long walk. The rations that were given out were flour, water, baking powder, and that's how fried bread started to be made. So we talked about that, and I led that into let me go to the next slide here, about fairy tales. And a lot of the students were saying, oh, I didn't know that really happened. I thought it was just a fairy tale, or it was just a legend or a myth. And I told them, I said, no, it really happened. There was, it did happen. So we went into fairy tales at this point, and connection to individuals with this next project is I told them some stories, some oral traditions that were passed down generation to generation. And then I asked them to go home and ask their adult about if they have any traditional stories they'd like to come in and share. And, being 100% ELD, having that oral presentation is very important. So that way they're able to speak and, write complete, clear sentences after they're able to speak it. So connection to community, which they did with partner work, we discussed local stories. For example, both Hispanic and Native American stories hold the crow and the coyote as tricksters. So we talked about different morals, different themes that emerge from these stories. We connected to our personal life, how, I always tell the students, you don't want to be like the crow. Let's get our work done. Let's not be like the coyote and be a trickster. And then we going back to the project here, the project was to create an architectural fairy tale home designed to invite people to come and live in this home. So we went over the rubric, and we used various graphic organizers to organize it, but in the end, they typed it out, and they did a little house to go along with it. This student chose to do, with Halloween right around the corner, they chose to do a haunted house. So they're inviting people to come to their haunted house and, to see all these different things that were in their haunted house. So that was our PBL. We did 2 last quarter.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Herrera, for sharing how you've been incorporating the project-based learning in your classroom. We're going to move on now to our middle school teachers. So Ms. Irangan and Ms. Graves. So I'll go ahead and spotlight you.
Good morning or good afternoon, I guess. I think that Mrs. Irangan has class right now in with her, so I guess I'll just step forward and be our spokesperson, if that's okay with everyone. We use defined learning and we incorporated it with a story that we got out of our book. Our textbooks for reading and ELD are the National Geographic Inside textbooks, and they have some very wonderful stories with lots of beautiful pictures and details. One of the first stories in the book was about the critter cams that they attach to animals in the ocean. And it talked a lot about camouflage and things like that. So when we access the defined learning application, we were able to find something that kind of went along with our review. So I'll start sharing my screen. We looked at this in living color oceanic palette, and it talked about using the way that animals camouflage to draw pictures and make dioramas and kind of make like a museum out of your room. So we incorporated that into our lesson and made it into a PBL project where the students were able to create actual posters and dioramas and models, however they decided to express themselves. And then we invited the elementary kids in to our aquarium museum. And we had the kids, our middle school students, be their tour guides. So that was how they presented all the information they learned. They were able to actually tell the younger students what they were doing and all about their projects, which for our students who are in ELD and have some problems with speaking and reading and writing, it gave them the opportunity to present their information to a younger crowd where they had less inhibitions. So it was really, really nice for us because the elementary students were able to come in and see the project that our students were working on. And it made it more real life for our students because they were able to actually show real people what they had done. And it made it more important to them because they were able to share their knowledge that they learned during the project. And I think that the elementary school and the middle school students both had a really, really good time. And we're going to try and incorporate that into another PBL project this next 9 weeks.
Can I just interject really quick?
Yes.
Our one of our kindergarten students came back and made a little jellyfish all by himself after
That is
your
awesome.
project.
That is so awesome.
Well, and Ms. Graves, if you don't mind, I've got a few pictures I can share of your students' amazing work that you sent over here. So hold on, I'll go ahead and share my screen, and because I think it's really incredible to see how elaborate the work was. So.
And our students did great. And the best thing about it was seeing the communication between our middle school students and the elementary school students. It was just amazing the way our kids took it above and beyond and explained to the elementary school students what they did, what was going on. Even our students that are kind of shy and don't like to talk very much to us, when they got with their elementary school student, they kind of opened up and were more willing to share and talk to them. So it was amazing to see the communication between the two groups of students.
Amazing. I think, is this your presentation day?
Yes. And the funniest thing was we had told the students all about presenting and given them some presentation skills. And after the elementary kids came, we had a student say, well, Ms. Graves, weren't we going to present? And we were like, yeah, that's what you did to the elementary students. You presented all the information. And they were like, wow, that was easy. So it was really awesome, the feedback we got from the students.
Well, it's incredible. And so many different, such variety in all of the projects. I like how open-ended you left all of that.
Yeah, it was totally up to them whether they made a poster, a diorama, a model, paper mache, clay, whatever they wanted to use. We had them plan their project out and then just provided them with the materials they needed.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate you kind of opening up your classroom to us. Next up, we are going to hear from Mr. Daniel Delgado.
Hello.
Yes,
Hi,
wonderful.
everybody. And I'm on here twice because I have my computer, and I'm going to share my screen with you now.
Wonderful.
And I hope you guys can see it.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I'm Mr. Delgado. Hi, I'm up in Cuba, and I'm the chemistry instructor. I'm also the science department leader at the high school. And we've been doing PBL for a while. Originally, we started during a really difficult time, which was right before COVID. And when COVID hit, we continued it. And one of the things that we've learned here at the district is that one of the challenges we had from the get-go with PBL, especially, was really making sure that the students didn't see it as an extra thing that we were throwing at them. It's not supposed to be an extra thing. It's supposed to be incorporated into the class. And so that was something that we found out really early on, that if it's seen as an extra thing, or if it's seen as something extra that we're putting on top of everything else that we put on the students, it's really met with a lot of dislike. But if you spin it and it's something that you're incorporating all the time throughout your lessons and incorporating it into everything that you're already doing in the classroom, it just turns into something really, really successful all of a sudden, right? And so based on that principle and based on the successes that we've seen doing that, this year, I'm going to highlight one of them. So what worked and what went really well was that the platform worked really well with us for Canvas. The content was grade level appropriate, which was really, really great. The scope was clearly identified in the projects. And in this project, there was actually a couple, but the one I'm showing stuff for was, I'm going to read it off my board right here. It is chemical engineering, carbon nanofibers. And so, supported NGSS and STEM ready standards, had excellent support questions, great for remote students. So we really saw a lot of the remote students respond really well to this. Creating a visual scope of work using information provided. That was a really, really cool thing that we were able to do, was actually take some of that information and turn it into a visual that you can put up in the classroom really easily, and so that the kids see it all the time. And I thought that in particular was one of the strong points of the whole project. It was really easy to adapt to a larger poster that we put up in the class, and it was up all the time and everybody could see the scope. And I can show you a picture of that. What were the challenges? Still working on effective differentiation strategies. So that's something that's always a challenge, and especially with remote work, is really working to provide a lot of differentiation. So that's something that us as a science department are working to come up with, strategies for differentiation. What would we do differently? So implement, so like I said, we really want to learn to adapt a little bit more, pivot a little bit more for students that want something extra, or have something else to go along with it, to kind of deepen the learning for those students that are really, really at the top. So that's something that we're working on. And so when we pick a project, we're trying to figure out ways to respond to the really low performers and to the high performers as well. So, and that's something that also goes along with our MLSS. Make a one-piece poster for the class in each classroom. We're going to try and do that for every project that we do. Add alternative ways to demonstrate understanding. And that was really an important thing. And that's one of the things that we did to do this, was we wanted to incorporate the things that the students already are using in our classes and have them work together to support the project, so that this isn't seen as an extra thing, but something that's working together with the other programs. So we have a Labster program, and we have a Padlet program that we use, and all those three things we use to tie the project together. And they did parts in each one of that supported each other, and that worked really well. Review all materials provided for each project. Ensure that the project is related to your to the standards, and that's something that we're working on as well. Is really making sure that we go through the projects and really line them out for the best time of the year, and when it goes good with what we're covering. And these are some examples. So, and this is what I was talking about with the big. This is actually a big poster that we came up with for this project. And so it had a scope and it had a sequence and it had steps and it had a timeline. And it was really, really easy to do that with the information that was provided in the project, because I thought that that was fantastic, because we've used some other programs in the past. And I've actually used a program called Odyssey, where I don't know if you guys have ever seen that or anything, but some of those are very vague at the explanation part at the beginning, and they don't like have everything all tied together in a really nice space. These ones are all really, really nicely tied together, and I really liked the way that they had the introduction, the overview, and they had all the information on like what was happening and when, so that you could decide how to divvy up the project into sections and into goals. So I thought that that was excellent. So that's a picture of that. And then on the left, if you guys see my screen, you can see like these are examples of the Padlets. And so inside the Padlets, the kids would use, they do the definitions, or they'd be using the terms that are used in the project, and they would put those into the Padlet. And the Padlet is like a record of everything that they're learning over the course of the semester. And so these are like their own little world that they get to pick exactly what they put in there. And they it uses it to support the project. So research, anything else that they have for this stuff could be easily put into this. And it's kept with everything else that we're learning. And they see that the big goal is that they see that the stuff that they're learning about in class ties directly to what they're talking about in the project, which it worked out really nicely for this project. And then we also incorporated Labster. So Labster is another program that we have that's more specific to the lab environment and to providing the students. And I know that Miss. Oh, I'm sorry there. Yeah. So Miss Lucero, yeah, I know that you had said this, Miss Lucero, that the students aren't exposed to a lot of things here at our school because we're so rural, and it's true. So one of the ways that we try and overcome that here at the high school is because, and especially since we have so many kids on remote and doing all these other types of learning, is that we got this program called Labster, and they're able to do virtual experiments in virtual labs. And they do the lab safety course with us in a virtual lab where they can't get hurt. And so that's been really successful. And so we actually incorporated one of the Labster virtual environments to help with this project, where they talked about states of matter, and they talked about atomic structure and how that directly related to the project, to the PBL project. And so that was a really, really nice connection. And it was really easy to use the two together and collaborate. And the last thing I'm going to say, because I know that I talked a lot, was that the big goal for us was to really hit some really high points from other classes and to show the integration between the relationship between the different classes that the kids are taking. And so then that's really the big thing that we're doing here at the high school, right? Trying to make these projects where they're really well-rounded and where they see that the stuff is tying together, and it's from in a lot of cases can be from multiple subjects. So for geometry, we tied that in. We tied in the stuff that they're learning in geometry to our chemistry, structure, shapes, volume, all units, all that stuff. And then we also tied in the law of conservation of mass to all the stuff that they're learning in algebra. And we showed, and part of this project, we showed a lot of the ways that algebra and chemistry are so related, and how chemistry is actually where algebra comes from. And that's where they actually started making all these relationships that they turned into algebraic equations. So it came together really, really nicely. And we are really having a blast using defined learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Delgado. That was so great, and happy that it's working with your students and you're able to kind of incorporate all of these other programs that you have. Last up, we are going to hear from Ms. Bitsui on a little bit more into the career connected piece of Defined. So here you go. I'll just spotlight you, Ms. Bitsui, and All yours.
Hi, my name is Delandra Batsui. I am the internship coordinator with Cuba Schools. We work with middle school and high school, 6th through 12th grade. We use the Define Careers as like a resource for our students. Also, as a PBL project for the students that are on remote learning. Define Learning has helped the students prepare for their future career goals and expose career interests and help engage, motivate our students. Yesterday was our first day of internship, so I haven't had the chance to go around the classroom and see how Define Learning went or how it helped the classroom, because our 9th and 10th graders are on campus and the 11th and 12th graders are off campus. Our middle school are also on campus. So we try to expose Define Career Learning as a curriculum in the classroom. Most of the time, we try to do hands-on activities and trying to engage also the teacher mentors to bring back imagination. I love the fact that Miss Grace did an aquarium. I'm also trying to get the teacher mentors to use their own strategies as well. But this Define Career Learning has been really helpful with us being in hybrid school. Remote learning has really benefit our remote students.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that piece and kind of how you're using Define Learning in the elementary and middle, and then kind of moving into the Define Careers piece in the high school. That's great. All right. Well, that is the end of our presenters today. Let me go ahead and remove your spotlight, Ms. Vitsui. And I'd like to just open it up. If there are any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I do have one question in the Q&A and it's really, I think, for everyone. And the question was, how do you see student engagement increasing with the use of project-based learning in your classroom, and kind of what has that looked like for each of you? So does anyone want to talk about the engagement piece? Yeah, Ms. Graves, go ahead.
So the students were really, really excited when they got to present to the elementary school students, our middle school students were. And so now we're just now introducing our second project, another project-based learning thing that we're going to be doing in the classroom. And they're all really excited about it because they want to present to the elementary school again. And so I think that this will help in their research and their planning and their entire way that they conduct themselves throughout the project, because they're so excited about sharing what they've learned. So now they really want to learn a lot, so they know what to tell the elementary kids. So it really has helped with engagement so far in our classrooms.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I do think there's such a value in having an audience, somebody to kind of curate these projects to, so it's not so open-ended. And having the elementary, what a great idea to kind of bring the two campuses together. Thank you. Anybody else have something they want to share on that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So one of the cool things that happened over the course of the project up at the high school that I saw, and of course with science, it's easy to get the kids excited about things, especially with like demos and things. But one of the cool things that happened with these projects is that when we started having the students share these and actually selecting some like as examples to post on a website, they love it. The kids love it. They really like to make theirs the best. And when they get selected to be one of the exemplars, they really get excited about it, which I was really, really happy about. And I think that that's really cool that they're getting so excited about that.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, Ms. Herrera, go ahead.
With my third graders, what I noticed is it also engaged them in their own culture and where they come from and who they are. They went back and they asked their parents, their grandparents, whoever their adult may be, about their culture, their background, so that it made it relevant to their unique culture, their background, their life.
Incredible. That's great. I actually just heard from another educator today that they said with increased relevance, we can increase the rigor. And I think that's what you all have kind of shown today too, is, you're making things relevant to your students. And with that, you can increase that rigor and really help close that gap. So that's absolutely incredible. Is there anybody else who wanted to? Oh, yes, go ahead, Ms. Lucero.
So as Dean of Students, part of my job description is to also deal with behaviors and in the classrooms, if teachers are having difficulty with certain students. So I've noticed that some of the students probably need like an extra challenge. So I've been doing that in our kindergarten. I've been going in and doing defined learning projects with a couple of our kindergarten students that we noticed might need a challenge. And they really got into it. I've been working with the parent and the teachers, and the kids are just really, really enjoying it. And the parents are really happy that we're being able to challenge their students as well.
Absolutely. Able to kind of dig a little deeper there, fuel that deeper learning. Absolutely. Amazing. Well, it looks like we're kind of coming on our time here. I did just want to share here at the end, if there are any other questions or things that you might need from me or anyone at at Cuba Independent Schools, feel free to send me an email and I can put you in contact with them. Also, that QR code is going to take you to a page that gives you just a little bit more information on what everyone was speaking on and some of those sample projects that they shared with you today. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.